Sure. Okay. So basically, the first item is the gas powered leaf blower ban update. I just thought I'd give an update from my neck of the woods, and I actually like the other people on this Zoom call to do the same. I basically have reached out. I have like these flyers in my car, and I'll just go around the corner once I hear it, and I'll just go and say hi to these landscapers, remind them that it was, the ban started last month. All of them have been pretty friendly. One of them, like when I left, they started running it again. He said, well, I didn't bring it this time, but I will next time. I'm like, okay, but please don't use it anymore now, or whatever. You have to give them a little leniency. But I basically handed out about at least a half a dozen flyers to different landscapers in my neck of the woods, which is Cumberland and Dorset. That's pretty much what I can hear. I'm curious what others have been doing. Anyone want to chime in?
Well, I did talk to one when I was going into Bethesda, and he was aware of the ban and said, oh, he was getting an electric leaf blower, and so he was going to change, but he was using a gas powered leaf blower. And I've just noticed in passing various landscapers using gas powered leaf blowers still, and it is clearly the case that the owners are not present when the landscapers using gas powered leaf blowers.
Yeah. So where did this happen to you? What street was that on?
Well, that street was on Deal Place, I guess is.
Okay.
And I mean, I've noticed gas powered leaf blowers on my own block of Essex, on Warwick, on Fallstone, in various different places, and it is always the case of landscaper using them, and I don't see the owners around.
Right. Well, like I said before, you're welcome to give these flyers out. They're very informative, and I've been doing it in a very friendly way. How about you, Ralph? I guess you don't really hear anything because you're lost in the woods.
Yeah. Also, I don't drive through town. So I'm not really out and about on the street and everything.
Gotcha. How about you, Patty and Kumar?
I hear some, and I mean, I walk my dog all the time. I don't have leaflets. I should probably pick some up somewhere to hand to people.
Well, you come to my porch. They're on the porch for you to pick.
I'll pick them up. I go by you.
Yeah,
I'll do
just on the porch there.
Yeah, but I've talked to a few people. I've actually had very good response, and a lot of them are now electric. So I'm impressed. And the same I was talking to said that his landscaper said that he's switching to electric because of the Somerset ban. And was that okay with Reed? And Reed was like, yes, do you need help? So, it's spreading to the other neighborhoods because he's in Kenwood.
Yeah, I mean, I basically say when I talk to them, I said, it's already banned in Chevy Chase Village and DC, and Montgomery County's on its way. I just sort of show them.
Yeah.
How about you, Kumar? Do you have any?
I've noticed both being used, so it's, I'm not really walking around town too much during the daytime, but I don't know, maybe there is some progress being made.
Yeah, no, the town is quieter than it used to be. I will say that. Yeah.
Huge.
It is. Yep.
Okay. The next item, Steve Serco asked me to consider with the committee here about banning all plastic cutlery and plates and glasses for town events, which seems obviously a good idea. So I would bring it up now, except we don't have a quorum. We don't have a majority of members now. So I'm just going to push it to the next meeting so that we can vote on that, if that's okay with everybody.
You might just talk about, that you can buy compostable. So people don't say, what are we going to have to use metal? There are other options.
Yeah, there's compostable, there's bamboo.
Right.
The town hall is also giving out all these little plastic water bottles at events, which
wow.
maybe they could move to jugs, or whatever, or
Right.
bring their own, or, just think about an alternative that would work there.
Thank you for that information. Okay.
Good,
All right.
yeah.
So the next item that I had on the agenda has to do with solar panel town project update. Matt has put together a really pretty extensive, like 4 or 5 page RFP that he's going to put out to solicit responses of subcontractors that do that. So we're already underway in this process of putting out an RFP, and once that's out, which should be in the next couple weeks, we'll hopefully get some response and see what these subcontractors have to say about the 2 sites, which are, again, the pool house roof, which is partially in the woods, but I still think that during the summer it's mostly in the sun. And the same thing with the garage behind the town hall. It's got a lot of sky. So, but maybe these guys will not think it's worth our while. We'll have to see.
I think they might like the town hall roof itself better. We'll see what they say.
Yeah, that's also part of the RFP to submit a proposal for the town hall roof. I mean, I personally think it's much too complex of a shape, but maybe they'll see it differently. You know what I mean? So that's an update on that. Anybody want to make a comment about that? We've already, motioned together to put that in motion.
Could I comment on, one item back, the plastic cutlery?
Yes.
I'm not sure why we need to wait until our next meeting to recommend to the town council that they take it up.
Okay.
Robin, maybe you could just recommend and say, the environment committee discussed this. They couldn't make a motion, but maybe we can the town council can move forward without the official recommendation of the environment committee.
We always can do. It's just better if it comes from a committee, because then there's town support for it rather than just the council acting on their own, which is something we're conscious of. But yeah, I can do that. I mean, you can say,
since it's just, a matter of buying one thing rather than another.
Yeah, no, I think we can probably get it through, and it's such a minor matter that I don't think any residents would be upset at the council creating policies by itself. So
let me ask you a question to what Ralph is saying. Is it possible that I send out an email and say, listen, could you please approve the minutes? And also, could you please chime in positively or negative about this plastic cutlery idea?
You could certainly ask for opinions on plastic cutlery. I don't think you're going to get any objections. But the minutes, you've got to wait for a meeting. You've got to approve it in a meeting. Okay.
And you also have to approve it officially, like, banning plastic cutlery in the meeting time. You need to do it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to have an official environment committee recommendation on plastic cutlery, you need a quorum and you need to vote it. But I can certainly say, as Ralph is suggesting, that the environment committee members who are present certainly very much support it.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Moving on. The bee update, apiary. That is actually, we're on our way now. I can't believe I'm
2
actually.
years later, yeah.
Is it 3?
Oh, it's only 2. Come on.
This is the 3rd winter that we're entering. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I remember Patty saying she was so impressed that we were going to do that. It seems like it's going forward, like 3 years ago, and I was like, yeah, I'm pretty impressed too. Patting myself on the back. Well, it didn't happen. Here we are now, but we apparently the way it's going to happen is they're putting out an RFP to be formal, or maybe you want to
yeah, right. It's an RFP seeking a volunteer to run the hives. That's what it is, and it allows an open competition then, although we think probably it'll be Elizabeth who comes in anyway, and that is what was, the mayor particularly said we should do, rather than just have some unofficial tie-in with an individual. So that's why it's going that way.
Right. And in addition, the town is going to pay the beekeeper some money so that
Yeah,
it's,
well, I said volunteer, but I mean, it's a token amount of money, but what that allows is that the beekeeper is then covered by the town insurance policy, and so for events that happen,
right.
they're then covered by the town's insurance.
That's a critical little piece that's made this all happen. So thank you for your creativity, Robin and all.
Yeah, it was more Steve actually who came up with that, but yes.
Yeah. Okay, moving on right along, we have the street lighting update. The Kumar wrote me an email expressing some of his concerns about the Kelvin rating of these lights. My recollection is that the street light pilot that we did on Little Cumberland a few years back had a range of lights that were started at 2,700, and it was a 3,000. I think the 2,700 was like the one closest to Wisconsin. It was sort of darker. And then the 3,000 one was also pretty nice. And those two were, I think the 3,000 was like in general liked by many of the people, that the majority of people that visited it. And also to remind committee members, I believe, well, San Francisco did a very large study on what Kelvin to choose, and I think they used 3,000. And I'm going to confirm that again. I didn't look at my notes, but I'm about 99% sure that we were basically following the city of San Francisco's research in doing that. But I know Kumar wanted to share some of his thoughts, so why don't I turn it over to him? And go ahead, Kumar.
Okay, thank you, Barton. First of all, I apologize for my camera not being on. My computer's in a closet and there's no light here, so you wouldn't be able to see anything anyway. But just as an aside, the Environment Committee is probably my favorite committee in this town, and I'm saying that even though I'm the chair of the Public Safety Committee. I think you're doing, I think your work is probably some of the most consequential and important work of any committees here in town. And I'm not a scientist,
Thanks.
but it was the Public Safety Committee that put in the budget request, $235,000 for new LED lights. And obviously there's both environmental and financial benefits to it.
Yes.
It's a really monumental step for the town. And I just, I'm not completely in the loop on this, but our committee has been talking about street lights mostly from the perspective of public safety, like the lighting of sidewalks and, tree foliage that's blocking the lights. And I drafted a memo that I sent to Barton a couple of months ago. I don't know if you all have seen it. It wouldn't surprise me if it kind of got lost in the flood because Barton was probably overloaded with work. But it did have 8 recommendations on it. And I was hoping the Environment Committee would either sign on to the memo or at least sign on to some of the recommendations. And the gist of, so some of them had to do with the process with, locations of lights and tree trimming, but some of it also had to do with the scientific aspects of it, which is that what I'm reading is that it's beneficial for the environment, for children, for humans to have lower than 3,000. And I don't know the exact specs of what we're getting, which is kind of the issue here because it hasn't been shared with me, at least. Originally, Matt was saying 3,000 to 4,000 K would be okay. Then he said, I think he said 3,000. But what I'm reading is below 3,000 is preferable. Closer to even 2,000, the more amber range rather than the white range. And I put a link in the, I don't know enough scientifically to evaluate these articles, but I put a link in the chat where they're saying,
Mhm.
let's see, below 3,000, closer to the likeness of the old 2000K high pressure sodium streetlights are what cities, neighborhoods, and utilities should be installing to preserve sleep, our health, wildlife, and maintain a proper nighttime ambiance. It says the AMA's maximum limit is 3,000 Kelvin, but this organization is recommending below 3,000. And I think that our town would benefit, and Robin's a scientist, obviously, so he's participating in this, but I think our town would benefit from a little bit of more research and a little bit more scrutiny of what we're actually getting. Pepco, I used to be a shareholder of Pepco. They're a for-profit company. They're going to give us whatever is convenient for them, whatever financially works out for them, not necessarily what's best for us and for insects and wildlife and people. And so thank you very much for the opportunity. Also for bees. Now, I don't know if Bee City USA has recommendations on streetlights, but
It's a good question. I'm gonna look into that.
I'll just leave it at that. And I
See.
appreciate it.
Have. 1 second. So again, I think the committee recommended no more than 3,000 was our recommendation for LED lights to the because the blue light is very damaging. Me personally, I'm a scientist, and I studied vision, so I know a lot about the light spectrum and such with a physics background. But anyway, so I know what I know, and I know what I don't know. That's what that makes a good scientist. Anyway, I personally like the 2700. It's lower light. It gives you more ambient light, but I know that Marnie was very concerned that she couldn't see anything at night. And but we went out to that very special neighborhood. Robin, or Ralph, you might know what it's called. It's like, was it Port Washington? I don't know what it is. It's like
Fort Washington.
It is Port Washington.
Yeah, Fort Washington.
Fort Washington. Wow, I can't believe I actually remember it. That was a very, very exciting experience. Have you been out there? Anybody?
I haven't.
You should go out and see it. It's a really interesting, isolated neighborhood that's like on its own grid. It has very low light LED lights, street lights, and it feels just so wonderful. It feels like a throwback in time. And yes, it's not highly illuminated, but I personally thought it was magnificent. So I'm sure there's lights there. I have them in my notes, are like 2,700 or less for sure. So I'm not sure what the situation with the lights, Pepco, are we actually moving forward with this? I mean,
Yeah, right. I mean, I'll give you what I do know, and I'll tell you the approach we're taking, and I'll compare it to the approach that's happening in some other communities. We are going with what Pepco has in stock, which is 3,000 Kelvin bulbs.
that's what they're offering.
That's what they're offering. And we are going through another pilot testing 70 watt equivalent, 100 watt equivalent, 150 watt. It's actually 4 different ones to decide what brightness is appropriate for regular street lights and versus intersections. Intersections should have higher brightness.
Yeah.
So that's the pilots are almost certainly going to happen this year. I think they're going to wait until the winter time when there's less light and more chance to see the.
And what's a pilot? How many lights?
Well, I think it's 4, but I'm not absolutely sure. I don't have it. I know there are 4 different wattage levels. They may be putting double lights in of each one. I don't know. What they're saying is that once we've chosen our lights, then they will install them in waves of thirds, I think, 8 weeks apart, and that's because their bureaucracy requires that. And that, this is mysteries to me there, but we'll get it done, over 6 months, I think. They've not yet given us a cost estimate, which bothers me. But I don't think this one is going to be as expensive as what they were proposing 2 years ago when they said they were going to do something.
Which was $2,000.
It was $200,000 to do one street, yeah. And
That was $2,000 a pole.
well, it was whatever. It was
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah, whatever.
I
Compared to like that other town, Tacoma Park, they had $35 a pole.
but yes, but that was a deal that Pepco Sex made for
Yeah.
the Kumar Park. That was something they did especially for them, they said. Now, I have to say that the folks at Pepco who've been working with were incredibly ignorant, and it was painful talking to them. So, I was explaining to them that LEDs, unlike high pressure sodium and mercury vapor, have directed light, which means that the light is going downwards, not spread out all over the atmosphere, which is what happens with HPS, which means you don't get glare into your home from LED lights or up into the sky, usually. You get, instead it all comes down. That also means that you get more of its light coming down onto the street than you do for high pressure sodium or mercury vapor.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know that. I explained that you needed brighter lights at intersections. They didn't know that either. And these are Pepco employees, so that's the point, that they really are poor. Anyway, we have made that much progress, and we think it's actually coming, this pilot, and then moving on. And I'm going to contrast that with Chevy Chase Village and with Chevy Chase Section 3. They are trying to own their lights. So they and there is the law that says that municipalities may own their lights. But Pepco has put so many roadblocks in for them since the law came into effect in 2007 that no municipality has yet managed to own its streetlights. And they're still trying. And the Public Service Commission, which is the overseer of Pepco, is now getting fed up with Pepco, but they haven't done this, and the battle still goes on that way. And what we're doing is just continuing the relationship with Pepco, and all we're doing is changing the bulb. And Pepco seems to be much more willing to work with us this way than they are willing to work with the other communities who are trying to own their bulbs. Now, if they own their bulbs, it's true they could put in 2700 Kelvin, but when they will actually get to do that is uncertain, to say the least.
So are you saying that we can take out the bulbs and put in an LED bulb in its place? Because I sort of remember that conversation we had that 4 years ago, and that was not a possibility.
Yes, it can be done and will be done. Yes. The only problem with that is that in inspecting the bulbs, they might realize that the arm is too deteriorated, so they have to replace the arm at the same time they replace the bulb, and that could happen sometimes.
So that's a new development. That's great. And the other development that's great is that when we did our pilot 4 or 5 years ago, they only gave us one equivalent power for each Kelvin rating. We didn't have like 3 or 4 choices for 3000. We didn't have like
but all they did then was replace the bulbs in the lights. They worked back then. All they did was swap one bulb and put in an LED bulb.
They did. I remember
and they have been they've been arranged that way for some years now on streetlights. Anyway, it has moved quite far, but no, in doing that, we are giving up our ability to choose the kind of the Kelvin on the light. We decided that 3000 K was good enough at that point for us. So I think that because the light is directed downwards on the street lights, that there will be much less interference with birds, bees, whatever, than the other, the mercury vapor and the high pressure sodium, which scatter the light.
Mhm.
And they will also allow dark skies, I expect. So
Mhm. And hopefully we can choose some lower power bulbs, you know what I mean?
well, yeah, no, right. I mean, all of the LED bulbs, I mean, when I say 70 watt and it's 70 watt equivalent, and
Right.
100 watt equivalent and 150 watt equivalent, their actual wattage is much lower than that. But it's
Yes, I realize that. Yeah, because they're LED, but they're sort of like, well, so from what you're saying, at what point do we have we signed the contract and we're like, we can't go back, or is there a turning point where we can't go back? Or when is that?
we haven't signed a contract yet, no, and we're not going to sign a contract, so we know how much the money is going to cost us.
Right.
So no, we have not signed a contract yet.
And that you have no idea when that point will.
Well, it should be this year. There is money set aside for it. We've put $235,000 aside for it. We hope it doesn't cost that much, but based upon our past experience, we did put that much money aside, and we'll just see what happens.
Okay, and we have like 180 poles.
Yeah, 150. I don't know. I mean, I can't remember. It's something like that.
180. It's that's $1,300 allotted.
178 polls is what I might have.
It's a lot of money to change a bulb. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Robin, has Pepco given us any documentation with the specs for these bulbs?
They haven't done, and as I said, the people we're working with aren't capable of giving us the documentation. They really are incompetent.
Yeah,
All we know is they are 3000 Kelvin and that they have, wattage ratings that I've been talking about. That's it.
the bug rating, which is, I'm not an expert in this, but I'm just looking at this backlight, uplight, and glare rating.
Right. Well,
developed do we know what that is?
They should. I mean, on with the information that comes with the bulbs, they should probably have that, and we should look at it. I've been a bit concerned because not every LED bulb seems to be a dark sky bulb, and I'm not quite sure what Pepco has, so we should check on that when we see them. But as I said, we have little choice other than the different wattage levels. If we stay this course, we can choose not to stay this course. But if we just don't stay this course, it's going to be more time and more money.
So do you think there'll be, can you keep us in the loop? When
sure, yeah. I mean, I can do it as long as I'm in the loop. I have stayed on the calls and listened and contributed, and hopefully I'm seen as productive by Matt because it's really he who is.
I'm going to do some more research to remind myself of all the conversations that we've had in the past, because it was literally 2019. That's 3 years ago.
Oh, I mean, for getting LED bulbs, it goes back to the origins of the Environment Committee.
Yeah.
It's really been a very, very long.
It happened before I arrived 20 years ago. The Pepco.
It happened before was on before I became chair of the committee. That's how long ago it was.
Yeah. Okay, well, this is exciting that something's actually happening because, gosh. So like I said, I would like, if anybody wants to do a little research on their own, looking for research, or I'm going to look at the San Francisco website again to see. My sister actually works for the city out there, so she's going to help me out find the information. But I know I think there is definitely some concern, Kumar, that we should look at and make sure that we choose something that's correct. And I guess little Cumberland is going to become the pilot area again, as far as
I don't know that.
okay, well, someplace will.
we need a real intersection. Little Cumberland, well, doesn't have a real intersection. It has a very dark corner, actually. So Little Cumberland isn't ideal for that.
So let's choose one where we can get an intersection too, like maybe even on Dorset Avenue, like.
Well, that would be ideal because you get the most traffic through that, so we can get comments from residents going through it.
Yeah, you get more people going through that intersection, like maybe Surrey or something like that.
Right.
Or Warwick. Okay, great. Anybody else want to make a comment about this subject?
Well, Barton, I mean, I'm just wondering, did you have a chance to look at the draft memo I sent you?
I did not have a full chance.
Okay.
I was extremely
It's
busy.
fine. No, it's fine. I mean, I guess my concern is we should be putting science ahead of Pepco's convenience, even if it takes a little bit longer. I can't say I'm really satisfied with just saying, oh, okay, we'll get 3,000. If the science, kind of argues against that.
Well, everything I've read is that 3,000 is at the soft end of the spectrum of
Yeah.
light. And the pilot, as Barton is pointing out, it was a 3,000 Kelvin bulb that was preferred among residents, and I think it is particularly for older residents who's eyes aren't quite so well able to see in dim light, that the 3000K is probably better than 2700K. For those of us who've been in on trying to get LED bulbs for more than 10 years now, the idea of further delay is really just unthinkable, to put it simply.
And just to remind you, Kumar, again, which I already said, is that San Francisco did a very large study on this Kelvin, just like DC did a very large study on leaf blowers. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel ourselves. We can look to other cities that have implemented LED programs and look at their research, which is what we did. Now, I admit that it was a few years back, so I need to refresh my memory, and I can pass that information on to you so that you can feel that there has been significant and sufficient studies. Now, obviously, everything is, science is not perfect either. But I do know that the 3,000 level is not the blue level, which is dangerous for wildlife. It's a safe range. I know that just from, that's why we chose these bulbs originally.
But that was a few years ago, and isn't it possible that new evidence has come out? I mean, the AMA says it should be as low as possible below 3,000. And I have LED lights that are 2,700. They look white to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't want to belabor.
If you want to find some research, Kumar.
Well, I've sent you the link. I've sent you the link.
This link right here. Okay,
yeah.
Well, I'll be taking a look at that. And I will be in touch with everybody. And everyone else is welcome to grab that link and look at it at a later time. So if that has some research, I would be very interested to see it.
Well, can I ask you, would you be okay if the Public Safety Committee made a recommendation that the Environment Committee be the lead committee on this, and that
well, we've already been the lead committee for decades.
Well, you seemed out of the loop, frankly, and I don't know if that you were being kept informed about this. And I think the recommendation should actually come from you as to what color temperature is.
We've done that already. We've made our recommendation.
But that was from years ago, wasn't it? It's not.
Well,
really
it's 3 years ago. So it was sort of the beginning of the pandemic. Actually, it was before that. But like I said, science does change, and I'd be happy to look at it again. So for sure.
Okay, I appreciate it. Sorry to take up all your time.
I will say that putting the 3,000 Kelvin bulbs in I think what's going to happen, but it doesn't mean it's the end of the game. If the evidence comes out that 3000K is damaging, then we can work with Pepco to get lower Kelvin bulbs in. It is literally just taking one bulb out, putting another one in. There's no more to it than that.
That's a good point. So you're basically saying that we're not wedded to this for the rest of time.
No, I mean, the bulbs themselves are not going to be replaced in 20 years because they last a long time. As you know, we've got LED bulbs on Dorset, which are now 10 years old and are still doing fine.
20.
They do last a long time. But if it turns out they're wrong and they're too bright, then yes, they can be replaced.
Thank you for that. Okay.
Robin, can I ask again? I thought you said that Pepco was going to, I thought you said that we were going to own the bulbs.
No.
Pepco's going to?
Pepco will own them.
So they own the bulbs and the fixtures.
Yes, they will be. Part of the reason for doing this is that Pepco's not very competent. And as I've learned over time, and just making the simplest arrangement with Pepco is really the best thing, because when they go beyond simple, they get their backs up and it gets hard for them. And that's what's happening with the municipalities that are trying to own their lights. That Pepco is resisting because it's too complex for them. They've now been told off by the Public Service Commission, which has made things worse for them. And I don't know what kind of tangle is going to come out of that. I really don't. I do know that by working cooperatively with them on a very simple idea, which is just replace bulbs, we are making progress.
Yeah, and just so that you know, in particular, Kumar, we got to a point where they gave us an estimate for $2,000, is my recollection, for each pole, and that was just a non-starter. So that's when it went dead in the water, and that's why I've been just sort of sitting back and hoping that something might change. And there was a bunch of things that we were hoping Pepco would happen, and it didn't happen. So this is just a story that just continues, and I haven't been following it month to month because it's aggravating. So I'm happy to get this update, and that was spurred by Kumar's input. So I appreciate that. But even still, having said all that, we might still be in dead in the water, because they might come back to you and say, we're going to charge you $1,900, and that's still not good enough. So
I don't think they're going to do that. I mean, part of the reason why I say that is that Pepco wants this to go well because they want other communities to sign on. They are under the gun from the PSC to put in LED lights now.
That's great. Well, they did say, yeah, I mean, they did admit to us that the reason why they've been moving forward with this in slow pace as it is because of the town of Somerset's pushing for many years. So we take some credit for snail pace movement.
Right.
Okay, any more comments before we move on to one more item tonight? I guess really this is an older item that just sort of was a continuing conversation, but Robin, you brought up about the save as you throw,
right,
pay as you go, pay for trash. I don't know whether or not you want to continue this conversation. I just put it out there because we only sort of scratched the surface of it.
Right.
Last meeting.
Yeah, right. I mean, the county itself is considering a pilot within the county on Save As You Throw, and wanting to go ahead with this more generally. So that's kind of why I was bringing it to the town. What it's formally, it's called unit-based pricing. That's the name for it. And what it means is that if you think how we pay for trash pickup at the moment, it's actually through our taxes, property tax and income tax. That's how we pay for it. And we're blind to the costs of it because of that. The trash contract plus the recycling contract together, they're 80,000 or 100,000 a year. They're considerable. Unit-based pricing means that you get charged for how much trash you put out. That's the concept of unit-based pricing. and this is always only on landfill trash. So that what happens when you got unit-based pricing is that people put less into landfill trash, they put more into composting, they put more into recycling. And so you shift the distribution of trash, which is a good thing, and environmentally sound.
Yeah.
So that's the advantage of it. It also is fairer to those of us who are conscientiously putting in food scraps and things like that. It means that we will gain some financial advantage from it now by doing that. So that's the idea. There are companies now who simply will, you award a contract to them and they'll give you a unit-based pricing system. They have large bags and small bags, and you can buy as many of the different kinds of bags as you think you need for your family, and you use those bags. And they got trucks that have cameras in them so that they can check to make sure that only those bags are going into the truck and not other foreign bags. And so, yes, it works, and most residents are compliant, and most residents are happy with the systems that, they are already out there. All of Massachusetts has it, various places in Connecticut have it. I mean, they're all around. There are a lot of communities that have done it already. And it reduces landfill trash or incinerator trash by something like 45% on average when you do this.
Hi, sorry. I had to step away for 1 second. So I missed the last part of what you said, Robin.
Well, it just said that there are companies now who will, just as, we've got a current company that picks up our trash, these people will do the same thing, except they'll give you a unit-based pricing system. They one big bags and little bags, and you buy as many mix of the bags as you think you need for your trash.
Is that something that we can participate in as a pilot program? Or
we as a municipality, we couldn't be part of the county pilot. No, we could run a pilot ourselves for a couple of years and decide if we wanted to do it longer
with this company.
Well, I think there's more than one company that does this now. I mean, there are a number of communities, I will say quite a number of communities who do unit-based pricing. And so there are a number of companies who actually run those programs.
Okay. Maybe if you'd be kind enough to share with me some of those companies like offline so that I can take a look at them.
Sure, I can at least get one company. I mean, there are probably several, but yeah.
Okay, just one, and then we can maybe discuss it to see whether the Environment Committee has an appetite for making that recommendation for the town council to
Sure.
try it as a as a pilot in a pilot way.
Right.
That'd be great. I mean, I think it's an awesome idea to financially incentivize people to compost more and recycle more and take the time to prepare your trash in the most,
Yeah, right. And it's
sustainable way.
Reduce waste generally. That's the idea. It basically encourages you along those lines.
Excellent. Okay, anyone want to chime in here about Robin's presentation about the unit-based pricing? Okay, any other items, public comments? Ralph?
At the last meeting, we talked about corks.
Yes. Oh,
What just happened with that?
I do have an update for that. So this guy, Laurent, who is a gentleman who brought forth this idea about the cork recycling program, we submitted it to the town council. Unfortunately, town council was concerned that this was like a private enterprise and we can't really support that. To synopsize here, I spoke to Laurent afterwards and I suggested that he consider the idea of he could just put out a bin on his porch, and people could just come by their house to his address and then just dump them in there, and then he would send them on. He reminded me that this is not a money-making venture, it's a money-losing venture, but it's his way of sort of participating and creating a more sustainable future. But he was very open about putting a cork bin on his porch, and I'm basically waiting for him. He has some family emergency that he's in the midst of it. When he finishes that up, he's going to send me a little blurb, and I'm going to send out like a MailChimp to the town saying this is what we're going to do going forward. Did that answer your question, Ralph? Did I represent the town council there properly, Robin?
Yeah, that was it. It appeared to be giving favor to a private company, and that's not appropriate for the municipal government to do that.
Yeah. Okay, guys, I think we're done for the evening. Ralph, I do recall in that email you mentioned you were considering, or you were offering to take minutes for this meeting.
I've been doing it the whole time.
Wonderful. You the man. Thank you so much, Ralph.
I have one quick question, or
Yes.
not just a comment. Something that came up at the last town council was that one house objected to a canopy tree because of a solar panel. The tree is positioned such that it would not affect their solar panels. They've objected in the past, and they suggested, she happens to be a town council member, that
And I know which one it is too.
any house with solar panels not have canopy trees, which is ridiculous
Oh.
because
But actually, she did change. What she said was to for there to be a list of homes with solar panels collected by the town, so that the town would know about the solar panels when planting trees.
But
two,
about the
two of us on the council said that, we have solar panels and they're in the back of our house, and so they don't affect, trees in the front. So there isn't a single thing, but what the idea was, let the environment committee work it out. So yes, it's a message to the environment committee to see if you want to pursue any kind of recommendation around the conflict between solar panels and town trees, particularly in this case.
Along the street, right?
yes.
Yeah. Right,
Just
so it
trees.
would only be solar panels on the front of the house.
I'm wondering who, like whether I have to consult with a solar, like who will tell me I can look at that house and look where the tree is. We're proposing a slow growing canopy tree that doesn't get as an oak. It's a black gum, it's a smaller tree. And from my point of view, when it was recommended, it would not interfere. She has a ton of panels. If it interfered with one small one, it might in 50 years, but it won't, for at least 50 years, might not ever. Do we need somebody to say that? I mean, how do I communicate
Or
that?
what is a canopy tree? That's something that's over 50 feet tall?
Yes,
Is that what that definition is?
yes, I think it's over. I think it's about 50 feet, but it's not all get much more than 50 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
There's-
it's hard to, when the resident objects to a tree, it's difficult to force a tree on the person under those circumstances.
Well, it's
I
not
agree
actually,
this objection is thin, to say the least, but
the problem is actually on the lawn of the people that objected to a canopy tree in a place where there's no wires because they might put on solar panels, and they never did.
Yeah, I know, and it is.
It's not his lawn, really. I mean, it's his,
It is hard to cross residents when it's their own property or they feel it's their own property. That is the
Mhm.
issue. That's the problem.
What is your concerns, Patty, comparing a canopy tree to a tree that doesn't rise higher than 35 feet. What's,
Well, if it doesn't rise higher than 35 feet, it's not going to affect solar panels because.
well, that I know, but what's your concern about allowing them to choose one tree or the other? Why is a canopy tree more desirable for the environment than a less than 35-foot tree?
It lives longer. It is much better habitat. It's
Provides
provides
more shade.
It's better for stormwater management.
Mm-hmm.
It's better in every way. I mean, our town is losing its canopy trees at an extraordinary rate because we can no longer put them where there's wires. And so if we don't put canopy trees where there's no wires, our town is gonna, have you ever tried to walk up Fallstone during a hot day
Mhm.
where only cherry trees are? It's wicked hot. And all the other, most of the other roads
Right.
have,
Trent is cherry trees. It's a problem too.
yeah. So it's a
Okay.
problem in so many ways.
And it canopy, when a town has canopy trees, it lowers the temperature in the town by several degrees, actually. So
Yeah.
Yeah, well, my whole house is under a 200-plus-year-old tree. And
Right.
but if Pepco or whoever has made that law that they can't plant canopy trees anymore under the wires, is that what the law is now? Or
well,
Yeah.
it's.
I mean, that sounds like
The-
we're
the
already
issue
screwed.
The issue there is power outages, and there are two sides on that one, is all I can say.
But
Yeah. Well, we're trying to get around that one and put them further into the lawn. We're trying to be creative with it, but as it is, we're just losing a lot of canopy trees quickly. And
it seems like we have no control of that now with this wire thing.
Well, only under wires is the issue. I mean, there's still a lot of places for canopy trees in town.
well, you see, this canopy that we're talking about isn't under a wire.
I see. Okay, because the wire is only on one side of the street, typically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
Gotcha.
and the other thing we do is plant only native trees except for the cherries. So, the cherries are, that's a long battle that we could talk about another time, but
Right.
the cherries are not native.
Let's
and they're
talk
not-
about it. Let's put it on the agenda for next time. I think we should close our meeting because it's been an hour. But I like this conversation. Let's continue it. Everybody, thank you so much for coming tonight. We were 2 minutes over. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barton. Good night.
Good night,
The
everybody.
minutes are going to say that we ended on time.
Good, thank you. That's important. All right, thanks again, Ralph and everybody.
Good night, everybody.